All right, I think we are all here and we are ready to get started. So thanks for joining us this afternoon. We are here to talk about social media best practices in unprecedented times. I am Becca Barnhart. I am the Public Relations and Marketing Manager at the Willamette Valley Visitors Association. We have Tori Middlestat here, and part of our staff at WAVA, and Katie McFall, who is our development coordinator, who will be handling everything in the background and collecting questions and hosting our Q&A session. So thanks again for joining us. This afternoon, we're going to unpack some best practices and industry tips on how to put your best foot forward on social media and on your website. And before we get started, though, I wanted to talk about a few housekeeping rules for the Zoom session. So make sure you're on mute at all times. Use the chat box at any time during the session for questions. And we're going to collect those and get to those questions during the Q&A at the end of the session. But if we don't get to everything, we will be sending out a Q&A best practices one-sheeter, as well as answers to any of the questions we didn't get to, and a recording of this webinar as we are recording it now. So I'm going to introduce our panel of experts in a few minutes, but first I wanted to begin by telling you a little bit how WAVA has implemented a few marketing tactics and programs during these last 6 months during the COVID pandemic. So I'm sure you all, as we are, walking a tightrope of messaging during this time, and it's really important for us to make sure that everything we're putting out there is really clear and concise and in line with the governor's office, as well as our partners like Travel Oregon, who we're going to speak later. So we are at WAVA under the messaging that we are presenting only inspirational travel tips at this time. We are not doing a call to action to book now or to plan to make your trip plans, but really to inspire your future trip at a time when it's a little bit safer. We are, in parallel with that message, talking to our consumers about how to travel safely if they choose to do so. And that's just a way to set expectations about our destinations and be really clear about what to expect and how to be safe and health conscious for our community's safety. So what we've learned over the past few months is the rise in COVID cases really gives us that opportunity to be really clear, really concise, and we have a couple tips on how to do that. It requires the foundational voice, and that foundational voice comes from your business's values and how you want to be presented and how you want people to react and act in your area. So whether that be your business, your region, your hotel, whatever it may be, what we need to do is make sure that we're being a really solid voice and setting those expectations and keeping a constant ear on national, state, local sentiments and guidelines. So we're putting all of that information at the forefront for people to know exactly how to expect their trip to go. So WAVA's been doing this a couple ways in the past months. In early spring, when COVID first started to affect our lives in the travel tourism industry, we implemented, Katie, you can do the next slide. We implemented Window to Willamette campaign, and that was something that we put together to inspire that springtime bloom in the season that people weren't able to access, whether or not they'd traveled here before, were part of our channels. We wanted to give them an opportunity to see what the Willamette Valley looked like because we knew they weren't here to visit. So we gave a lot of our businesses opportunities to take pictures outside their business windows to feature their vineyards, their hopyards, their gardens, wildlife, hillsides, and show what was happening in the Willamette Valley so we could really kind of keep that inspiration and keep that top of mind. And they gave us, our businesses, an opportunity to speak a little bit and showcase what they had going on. But it also gave an opportunity for past visitors or potential visitors to see what they might want to plan and book in the future. And then at the same time, this platform allowed us to support our local businesses because WAVA was able to purchase gift cards for overnight stays, for breweries, wineries, tastings, those sorts of things, for potential visits in the future. So anyone who posted a picture of the past when they'd been to visit or something maybe that they had been planning that maybe that was cute of mind, they would be able to win a prize from some of those local businesses. And we were able in the springtime when businesses were closed to put $5,500 into small businesses' pockets. Not huge, just a drop in the bucket for what they probably needed, but something at least to get them a little bit of support during a time when they were forced to be closed. So that was one campaign we did for a month and a half. And then in June, we started our Responsible Reopening campaign. And some of you are probably familiar with this campaign as we've been shouting it out all over the place. A Responsible Reopening campaign began as an opportunity to have a strong, clear, concise checklist of how businesses are putting safety and health guidelines at the forefront when things were starting to reopen again. So very simple things like hand sanitizer in public areas, touchless pay options, those sorts of things. All the businesses that were already doing those things just came to our website, signed up. We sent them free assets, whether it be physical or digital. And we put them on our website as the business that was a part of this program. We are still offering businesses to sign up, so please do if you haven't done so already. And then what's good about this, especially really timely right now, is we're working with Madden Media, who you'll meet later, to make sure that we're targeting these, this website, this webpage, so that people that are coming through, that we know that are coming through from different areas, are being hit with a message via text, in-app text, that's giving them the tools to get to this page and to frequent businesses that they know are doing the right thing. So WAVA's trying to make sure that when people are coming through, that they're aware that responsible reopening is happening, that we're doing our best as a valley and as a region to be as safe for our visitors and locals alike, and that these are the businesses that have committed to do so. So if you haven't done so already, please do sign up for Responsible Reopening. The URL is here, and then I think Tori did put it in the chat as well. And you can reach me with any questions you might have for that program. It's completely free. Next slide. And the last thing I wanted to just make sure this is a couple of examples of partners who have implemented the program and that we lift up on social as we can. So we're promoting a few businesses every week that are using Responsible Reopening and giving them a little bit of boost on social so they can be a little bit, people can be more aware of their program. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on really quickly, and I'm sure a lot of you are already aware, updating everywhere often is this the best practice right now. So if you have not claimed your Google My Business account, please claim it or ask me or your DMO on how to do so. We're all trained in how to do so. Please make changes to business hours of operation, takeout, whether or not you have outdoor dining, any of those sorts of things. So really important for potential tourists to know about, especially when they're planning for future trips and they're looking at all those safety guidelines. And if you're a specific tourism focused business, make sure you have your updates sent to Otis at otis@traveloregon.com, or you can send it to your local DMO or your RDMO, and they'll make those adjustments as necessary. We're able to do that at any time, and we're really happy to make sure that those things are updated for our tourists who are planning trips in the future. So that's kind of my really quick spiel on the WAVA front as far as a regional tourism perspective. I want to open it up to the real experts in this space. We have three experts today who are going to talk about their social media practices, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear their tips and for us to pass out those tips later after the webinar. Erick Durano is the social media coordinator at Travel Salem. Travel Salem is a DMO that represents Salem and the Mid-Willamette Valley area. Sachie Yorck is from Travel Oregon. She's a content community manager on the Global Integrated and Marketing team at Travel Oregon. And then Natasha Ivanov is an account manager at Madden Media. Madden Media is a digital marketing firm that helps DMOs and RDMOs with their marketing efforts. So they're all going to talk about their tips in this space. And like I said, if you have any questions, please put that in the chat and we'll get to them at the end or thereafter. So I'm going to pass it over to Erick to start.
All right. Thank you, Becca. Once again, my name is Erick Durano. I am the social media coordinator for Travel Salem. Thank you everyone for coming. I hope you'll learn a couple tips, best practices from what we present today. And I just first want to talk about how Travel Salem has started with their content strategy ever since COVID happened, and everything new with the social justice movement and whatnot. So when COVID happened, we had to shift from an outward visitor focus to more of a community focus. So we really wanted to be a resource for our local community, on anything new. We wanted to be on the cutting edge of state updates, state guidelines, and we wanted our community to hear all of those new updates. And we wanted to be that reliable resource that they can go to, because we thought that in the future, when people see this and look back on what we did during COVID, they'll be able to see that we took responsibility in promoting these safe guidelines, safety resources that people can access. And in doing that, we started promoting more nature and outdoor activities, and kind of also talked about Travel Oregon's Take Care Out There guidelines. We implemented that into our posts. So whenever we make any sort of posts guiding people to go to the outdoors or promoting a waterfall or nature experience, we always want to add in safety guidelines such as wearing a mask, keeping your distance from one another. So we want to promote that when people go to those outdoor experiences, they'll be able to know what to do. Also with, packing up your trash, regular things like that. We started building out virtual experiences. So when COVID started happening, virtual experiences were a huge deal. It was something people could do safely in their home. So we invested in a small 360 camera, and we started going through some of the more iconic areas in Salem in the Mid-Willamette Valley. So I think we did some in Deepwood Garden, we did some in the Oregon Gardens, and it was just a way that we could feature these sort of locations that people can look at from the safety of their own homes. And you can post it on YouTube. It's super easy. It's a free thing once you invest in the technology. So that was one way that we were inspiring people to, come and visit. We have these awesome locations, but come and visit when it's safe. Safety guidelines, like I mentioned, constantly promoting that. And another big thing that we've been trying to do and we're continuing to do is instilling confidence in our local businesses. So we've learned from many different webinars, the things that we've been reading up, that a lot of visitors, a lot of customers, they take note of how businesses are currently handling COVID, and they take note of who is following these guidelines set by the state and by the government. So how we're instilling confidence is we've developed a bunch of videos featuring local businesses and how they've been handling themselves during COVID. So one example is we did one on JoJo's Soul Food, and the imagery that we showed with that video is with the employees wearing masks, socially distanced. We did some on the Residence Inn, and how they've implemented strategies to keep their guests safe. We did some on Basil and Board and how they're adjusting their restaurant space to adhere to the guidelines. So things like that, along with like photos, we always like to create content that has multiple photos that not only shows a restaurant's food and whatnot, but also shows like the guidelines that they're taking, the steps they're taking to adhere to the guidelines. And one other thing more recently is we've definitely addressed our stance on the social justice movement. Now, this isn't something that Travel Salem or I think many DMOs have done in the past, but we felt that it was best in our best interest to stay where we were with the social justice movement and say what we were gonna do to move the needle forward on that. So we created a post on Juneteenth, on Blackout Tuesday. We have promoted local Black-owned businesses. We provided links for everyone to go to see the Black-owned businesses in our region. And we're continuing to create content that tells the stories of not only the Black-owned businesses, the Black individuals in our community, but also other demographics as well that have been underrepresented. And the last thing for our content strategy is we've started to take advantage of all forms of media. So not just photos, not just videos, but like I mentioned before, virtual experiences. We've dove into the realm of IGTV. Some of the videos that we produced to promote those businesses and instill confidence, some of them were like professionally made with DSLR cameras, but we've started to go into the IG Live realm. And it's a lot faster, it's a lot easier to produce, and people can interact while we're going through a business on Instagram Live, and they can ask questions, we can answer them on the spot. So I'll just give you guys examples of what we did here. First, we'll start with the imagery. All of these are produced in-house, so the type of imagery that we're focusing on is definitely nature-based, like you see on the right image there, promoting those safety guidelines along with the hike involved with that photo. We also like to promote community events, gatherings that have safety guidelines implemented in them. So in the middle photos, you can see this is the Downtown Salem Summer Streets event that we photographed. And this is an event that happens every weekend, where we block off State Street and other parklets to promote outdoor dining safely and also help promote local businesses that partake in that. And in the first photo, the Salem Carousel, that's another way to instill confidence within our content. It shows, you know, the horse wearing a mask, cute mask, and then we also added in the different markings and the different signage that these businesses are taking, that these businesses are doing to take steps in promoting safety in their business. And then the next slide here is going to be more of the alternative experiences that we're promoting. So not only are we instilling confidence in normal everyday things that people can do, go to the restaurant, go on hikes, but we're also promoting these socially distant experiences that you can do. So Top Wire Hop Project in Wilsonville, they've opened up a brand new beer tasting area, a beer garden, within the rows of their hops, and it opened up during COVID. So they've had the time to actually make socially distant tables. They've had the time to implement all of the steps necessary to promote safety within their business. And then You Pick Farms, super popular, but it's something that people can do in a socially distant setting. And then in the next slide, these are the examples of the virtual experiences. So the ones on the right, Deepwood Gardens, or Oregon Gardens, these are the ones that we have on our YouTube. And it's really cool. You don't need any special thing to actually view them. You can just go on to YouTube, view the videos, and click and drag around, and you can see a full 360 view of whatever it is that we're touring. And on the bottom left, you can see JoJo's Soul Food. We posted that on our YouTube as well. That was more of a professionally produced video. Quick 2-minute videos are super popular. They have a lot of engagement on social media. So we try to keep those more professionally produced videos shorter form. And on the upper left, you can see the Instagram Live that we did with Basil and Board, where we walked through the steps and how they were keeping their customers and their guests safe. That one is a little bit longer form, but the cool thing about Instagram Live is when you go live, it really advertises your account. It pushes your account forward on the stories section on Instagram, and it gives all your followers a notification. And more recently, they've allowed lives to be posted on your profile. So you don't have to be there actually live to view the video now. You can go on our account and view it whenever you want. And in the last slide here, just kind of summarizing the tips and tricks that I've taken with Travel Salem social media accounts during COVID. So definitely continue to provide inspiring and safe messaging like Becca mentioned. I think that's the main thing that people are looking for. I've noticed in a lot of our posts, people are tagging each other, but they're tagging each other and telling each other, hey, let's visit this later, whenever it's safe. So inspiring and safe messaging is at the forefront of what we want to do. I also want to kind of have you guys explore new features. So before Travel Salem, we never really did any sort of Instagram or Facebook Lives. If you guys want to do that, it's definitely a good option. It's a low cost entry into producing videos. Instagram just released a new Reels option, which is in competition with TikTok. It's like 15-second videos, but the cool thing about Reels is they actually allow others outside of your current following to view them. They're more advertised towards non-followers. So it's a good way to show off your content to people who may not be currently following you. And a lot of people do photos, but videos are taking over social media. So definitely, if you want to grow your engagement, grow your reach, take a look into videos. Maybe start off with Instagram or Facebook Lives, jump into Reels, jump into TikTok, and then jump into like fully formed, longer form videos. And then also just always keep an ear out for the ever evolving social landscape. Things like the social justice movement, if you turn a blind eye to it, that's kind of like the easy way to go. But making your stance known, we've seen it. It gives others confidence in your business. It shows where you're at as a business, and you have to find opportunities to promote and to move the needle forward on things like that. So, for example, we saw that Broadway Coffee House was hosting a gallery that also had the option for visitors to donate to organizations who provided help for social justice movements. So we saw that as an opportunity to promote local business, but also move the needle forward on the social justice movement. So find opportunities like that whenever you can and see if it fits your business. If it does, definitely partner with the business or individuals and help them out. And then lastly here, respond to comments when appropriate and be open to discussion. When this whole social justice movement started, we did get some backlash regarding our posts, regarding how we weren't promoting Black-owned businesses. We were able to address that by being open. We could have easily just deleted the comments or ignored it, but we wanted to make our stance known. We were open to discussion. We replied back. We had a constructive discussion with individuals who first called us out, and we were able to create a content plan that, with their help and with their contribution, we haven't heard any sort of backlash since then. And then lastly, just partnering with relevant business common goals. I think this is super important, especially with local businesses. I think keeping open contact, open communication with those local businesses, and asking from them what they want from you and how you can provide support goes a long way. So whenever you're, promoting yourself on social media, if you have any sort of like giveaways or any sort of promotions that you're planning on doing, see what other local businesses might be able to help you out or might be able to benefit from that as well. And that's it.
All right. Good afternoon, friends. This is Sachie from Travel Oregon. It's an honor to present before the Willamette Valley. And I'm not just saying that because I lived in Eugene, married a Brownsville, Albany boy, and love drinking Oregon Pinot Noir. Your destinations are ahead of the curve, collaborating and thinking creatively. Your work is for responsible reopening is truly inspiring. And I was taking a ton of notes during Erick and Becca's presentations. As Travel Oregon's Global Integrated Marketing Content and Community Manager, I oversee content for our consumer-facing channels, which includes the website, newsletters, print and digital guides, and social media. Travel Oregon's priority social media channels are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Pinterest. So I'm going to take us on a journey today, Oregon-specific consumer marketing strategies in the age of COVID-19. And they might be echoing some of the statements we've heard earlier. All right, are you ready? Next slide. All right. I can't hear anyone groaning, so I'm going to say it. Welcome to the new normal. Face coverings are now required statewide. Oregonians have adopted new consumer behaviors like contactless transactions and curbside pickups. We are constantly on video calls and streaming shows, and it's reported that purchasing habits are changing too. Just try to join a CSA right now. Next slide. Travel Oregon publishes a weekly report on the impact of COVID-19 on the travel industry. You can find it under Survey Opportunities and Data on the Travel Oregon industry website. Among the recent findings, we're seeing sentiment becoming more negative as cases increase and counties are put on the watch list. So it's worth mentioning that Marion County is no longer on the watch list. Land managers are also reporting record high usage and bad visitor behavior, coupled with cuts to budgets and staffing. Portland is also in the national spotlight for protests while we all address Oregon's history of discrimination. Right now, there are a lot of questions that don't have direct answers. Thanks, Tori. Next slide. Based on recent COVID-19 statistics and direction from the governor's office, Travel Oregon has returned to its active crisis messaging stage. That means less travel inspiration and more Oregon information. It's not fun to postpone your marketing plans, but Travel Oregon is no stranger to pivoting. At the onset of quarantine, we began pushing content to social media first, sometimes before any supporting website stories even existed. With all the quickly changing information, we now assign stories just a month before distribution. We also repost the same stories frequently with updated information and images. Next slide. You can think of this as 3 messaging buckets. Public safety, which may include explaining reopening phases or what to expect at businesses, as well as influencing responsible visitor behavior. Supporting local, instilling a sense of community pride that we'll get through this together. And positive stories, finding ways to celebrate Oregon's unique places and people right now. Next slide. As much as it defies our instincts and sometimes objectives, public safety is paramount above travel inspiration right now. Knowledge is power, and reinforcing responsible behavior will only help destinations sustain and recover. That is why we are providing information about frequently asked questions and ways to travel safely. Next slide. Our efforts to influence visitor behavior ladders up to our responsible recreation campaign, Take Care Out There, which first launched in February. It has evolved significantly since then. In the COVID era, Travel Oregon and public land stakeholders developed new priority messages under the Prepare and Care pillars, creating more branded social media tiles with text overlays. We know our fans want to see landscape imagery, so we accompany the tiles with scenic shots and detailed captions. For example, Take Care Out There was used to reflect a growing issue: trash at recreation sites. Masks, gloves, takeout containers, you name it, it's gross. So we stay true to our brand, using a scenic shot to grab attention, followed by a new tile about packing out trash. Next slide. Messages of supporting local reinforces that sense of community pride. Sometimes we take for granted all the locally grown food and incredible Oregon-made products that we have access to. Now it's our chance to remind Oregonians of why we live here and how we can humble brag about it. You'll notice that these 2 examples capitalize on timely events: Mother's Day and National Farmers Market Week. Posts that reference national days get more engagement. And because it's almost 5 o'clock, I'll let you know that August 25th is National Whiskey Sour Day. Next slide. The support local theme can also reinforce other objectives. On the left, we showcase businesses that sell face coverings, which underscores public safety messages. To the right, we are building upon our DEI values with a story about Black-owned businesses. This summer, Travel Oregon published statements about Black Lives Matter and our work to make Oregon a more inclusive state. We then put forth action, investing in stories and telling stories about Oregon's Black communities written by BIPOC content creators. Some of these stories took a hard look at our history while showing our resiliency to learn and grow. Next slide. At the risk of sounding cliche, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. There are positive stories out there. While we're not explicitly promoting travel right now, we continue to showcase Oregon's unique landscapes and cultural offerings with some guardrails. We incorporate safety information into articles of activities we know are popular right now, like paddling. We post images of places that are not hotspots for COVID or crowding. We share stories about safe local experiences that are currently available. Instead of saying go there now, we imply be in the know. By retaining our audience's attention with positive stories and images, we create space for future opportunities to educate. Next slide. Engagement is our king KPI during COVID. We do this with community management, creating an online sense of community through social media interactions. Responding to comments in non-generic ways personifies your brand and builds trust, but not every comment warrants a response. There are trolls whose minds you cannot change. We hide or delete comments that violate our community agreements, such as hate speech, or ones that pose a public safety risk. On Facebook, when you hide a comment from a post on your page, the comment will only be visible to the person who wrote it and their friends. In page settings, you can block certain keywords so those comments are automatically hidden. You may notice that on some of our Facebook posts, the comments displayed are fewer than the number listed. That means we reviewed and hid obscene comments and probably cradled our pets soon after. Community management can get intense, but it can also build meaningful connections to your brand. Next slide. All right, now here are some quick tips. Think of social media as an extension of your brand identity. It's your opportunity to communicate directly with many fans at the same time. Take a step back and ask yourself, who is my targeted audience and what kind of content gets engagement? Once you better understand your audience, plan your social media posts with a content calendar. Know any upcoming dates of cultural significance while allowing yourself to be flexible in case it's inappropriate to post. We go silent on social media if the news is tragic, and we only schedule posts to publish a week in advance. So, you may have missed Pinot Noir Day, but this Friday is National Red Wine Day. Ultimately, it's about staying true to your brand and meeting expectations. Our fans expect scenic landscape images and travel tips. Now they also expect messages of diversity, equity, and inclusion. After our Black Lives Matter statement was posted, we lost roughly 2,000 Instagram followers and gained some 2,500 in return. But we're okay with losing followers in order to stay true to our brand values. To us, it's quality over quantity. Next slide. When creating content, think about your industry partners. What assets can you produce that others will use? Destinations are looking for images of face coverings and diversity, and stories that are timely and can be pitched to media. Because COVID-19 won't be eradicated as soon as we'd like, it's okay to incorporate these objectives into your long-term planning. Sanitation will always be important. While you're thinking about your industry partners, connect with them too. There are some cool opportunities for collaboration, including Oregon Food Trails and the Willamette Valley Responsible Reopening Campaign. Next slide. One more cliche. Next slide. Thank you for your time and support and for this amazing photo, Tori.
Awesome. Thanks, Sachie. To introduce myself, I'm Natasha Ivanov. I am an account manager with Madden Media. As Becca mentioned, Madden is a marketing and advertising agency. We work with several states, our DMOs, individual cities, on your basic on advertising campaigns. We do a diverse amount of things, but I probably talk to Becca sometimes daily, most of the time weekly, on a couple of things. She's been, or I would say that Willamette Valley has been an excellent client to have. We do work with Oregon a lot and some other different DMOs. But today I'm going to talk to you a lot about what will kind of be a little repetitive, a lot of the same messaging that you're hearing, but we're going to come at it from an agency view and talk about building a campaign. So this is going to go directly into thinking about if you had a platform of choice. I'm going to talk mainly about Facebook, Instagram. For those who may not know, Facebook and Instagram are the same entity. Facebook bought Instagram. So when you kind of talk about starting a Facebook campaign, you're really talking about one and the same. You can do it Instagram exclusively, but just for the sake of not any confusion, we're going to talk about it as like one. To start off with this presentation, let's look at a couple of things that have been changing. As mentioned, a lot of people have talked about how we're doing face masks, they're required. Some things that you might have noticed since COVID's happening and how it's made an impact is Americans are increasing their drive market travel. I have a couple of stats here that I pulled from US Travel. 73% are willing to take a trip by car within the next 6 months. This was pulled about 2 weeks ago, so this is pretty relevant data. Of the people surveyed, 23% said they're willing to drive 500 plus miles one way. This is really important because I want you guys to think about who you've assumed like comes to your area. You know, you have a lot of people that travel by plane, but now who's coming by car? Cast a wide net. People are willing to drive. I can say from personal experience, I drove over 700 miles this last 6 days from where I live. So you think about 500 plus miles, that's about someone willing to do 7 to 10 hours of driving one direction just to get to a destination. We know that people have increased their travel into less populated areas. So a lot of times you'll see, as the friends mentioned, the recreation areas like national forests and different trails have probably gotten visitors that normally wouldn't be there. And that's still wonderful because it's still bringing people to your community. And we know that hotels are looking to increase occupancy. Now, this is a different call out. I understand that everyone's got a different message going on depending on what county you're in or where your area is at. So you'll have to take that in stride. And I definitely want to say that what we will cover in a little bit is a little bit about diversity and representation as well. We'll go to the next slide. So putting together a campaign. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about doing this more in the Facebook, IG area. Some basics to putting it together a campaign. You're going to consider what goals that you have as a business or as a DMO, whoever you are. Consider your content that you have currently on your website or what content you're posting with your social. Map out a calendar. We're going to look at your assets, and we are going to talk about creating ads and how you're going to apply targeting. We'll go to the next slide. All right, determining goals. So, examples of goals that you might have. We might be talking about general increasing visitation into your area while also promoting health and safety. This has been talked about quite a bit in this presentation as a whole about how you show mask images, how you say things about like take care out there, and how you inspire people to think about coming, and maybe they will come, but you can't exactly tell them to. So maybe that's your goal. You might want to just bring general awareness to your business anyway. Maybe you haven't been active on social media a lot and you want people to know who you are. This is not necessarily for like your current followers, for people who may not even know that you exist out there. Maybe you're promoting an event or a series of events. So one thing I know I'm familiar with the Willamette Valley is there's a lot of wineries out there or different establishments that are doing open garden type of like come and listen to like a singer and enjoy a picnic. Maybe you want to put that out there in a certain way. Maybe that's your goal. Maybe you're trying to sell a product. You know, I heard there's people here with, we have wineries in this meeting today, Cheese Guild. Maybe you just want to sell a product. That might be a goal too. It's okay to have multiple goals because that might mean you have multiple campaigns. And you can think of each goal as a campaign and then how you'll create a set of ads for those goals. Some things to think about here with those goals too is, you know, what is the current climate of your area as far as socially, as far as safety wise, you know, what can you promote? Where are you looking to advertise to with these goals? Are you only trying to capture your local audience? Are you trying to capture drive markets? Are you looking to only do out of state? I just saw the comment of sounds creamy. That's cute. Basically, depending on who you want to target, right? And the wonderful thing about Facebook in the Business Manager ad platform is that you can have multiple different targets, but we're really focusing on here. So let's say you want to have a drive market. You're in Central Willamette Valley. You know that you can target Southern Washington and you can get some Northern California folk. And let's just say you can target Oregonians. So reach out to that drive market, think about what they're going to want to be doing, what you want to promote to them. And then, as mentioned too, make sure everything's clear and what you're messaging with your goals. You want to create clear goals, and you want to make sure that when you're promoting your stuff and putting your ads out there, that everything's clear and precise with your messaging. We can go to the next slide. So considering your content and your assets. So when we're talking about a campaign, let's say you set some goals, and let's just say the goal here is that, I'll kind of use some that we use with Willamette Valley as an example, is that we're just going to inspire future travel. The intent and the quality of your content is key. So one thing to think about is being mindful of the content that you have there. A good way to market is the intent of your audience rather than trying to figure out who your audience is. And by that, intent could be, where are they right now? Is the intent of this person or people that you're targeting to, is the intent that they want a family experience? Is the intent that they want a multicultural experience? Do they want a shopping experience? Or better yet, where are they in the funnel? Are they just getting introduced to you, or is this an audience who's familiar with you and they're really ready to plan a trip within the next 6 months? There are statistics out there that say that by October hits, there's people that would love to take a trip and that would make them happy. So just something to think about that. Another thing with content is when we're creating an ad, the ad has a click through and it goes to a page. And kind of like how Becca mentioned before, there's a page where we're doing ads with her where it's going to land at this page. It's very informative. Whether you're doing informative ads or if you're just doing inspirational stuff, if you got a photo of a guy and a guitar and a glass of wine and it's about how you have music coming for the next month long and here's the list, the page that they land on should give them the information that they need. You don't want to make the users keep searching around because then they'll get bored and they'll click off. So those are some key things there. To touch on some things that have always been said is that when we're looking at assets, you have a variety of options, especially with Facebook. You have video, you can do a video ad, you can do a lot of photo ads, you can create like a gallery, which is called a carousel on Facebook. So it does multiple photos in one, and it all goes to the same landing page, but it's a way to feature things and kind of give the user an interactive experience by being able to scroll through. Those are very common in shopping ads, if you've ever gotten them before. Things to think about with that too is, of course, mass imagery, imagery of people that are spread out. If you are a winery or an establishment that has like servers, you want to take some photos. And these can also be just basic photos. If you have a quality camera phone, you might still be able to get some great shots. If you have a small, like just click camera or a DSLR, even better. But these don't have to be, you don't have to come up with a big photo shoot. But if you do have that quality photos, you obviously can. Another thing to do is UGC. If you've ever been familiar with user-generated content, I think it's a great place to also see who your audience is and who's out there, and also just use really good quality photos that they have as well. And that might be a way for you to help source and grab to not only use in your social, but also anything that you have in there on your website. Something else to think about too is to touch on, rather than COVID, to kind of switch over to more inclusivity. We're talking about diversity here. We can definitely move, as we've mentioned, move the needle forward by posting stuff in the now and continuing on, but also take an evaluation of your old assets as well. Do you have a blog? Your current blog right now may just be filled with non-diverse photos. You may want to go back and switch and update. It's always good to do so. And you've always wanted to just utilize photos that reflect the current time. So whether it's COVID or social justice or things that would help out, I think the idea is just being really inclusive of what's going on currently. And I think we can go on to the next slide. So once you've gathered all of this stuff, you're looking at a goal, you've got some great photography, you've got some good ideas, you've created some cute copy, you really want to plan it out. So the thing as an agency is what we do is we know that travel has to be inspired early on. You want to plan and distribute marketing and all your pushes for whatever season or event that you want to do ahead of time. So previously, this is pre-COVID, The average traveler took about 3 to 4 months to plan a trip. So meaning if you wanted to promote snowboarding, which I know is not popular in Willamette Valley, but if you wanted to go on a snowboarding trip, you're probably going to start serving me ads now because I'm thinking about what I'm booking in November, December when it's snowing. Sounds bizarre because at least for me here, it's August and I live in Arizona and it's 108 outside, but it also still works my brain on I can think ahead of time and plan. As far as during COVID and during these times, I think people still are looking to dream ahead and to make plans ahead. So if, you know, I know seller season in Willamette Valley is coming around the corner, but now is the time to get on there and promote people to come visit in October or come visit when it's that nice, awesome, cozy time of year. You want to get that out there now, even though it's still summer, rather than pushing that during the time. And these are ads too. So I will preface that when we're talking about advertising to them, they don't necessarily have to be posts that show up on your organic social media as well. So the ad may be floating around to your audience out there. Let's say your target's Northern California and you're targeting them with fall imagery and come here in October. You may not exactly say that, but just in general, that also that imagery, maybe it doesn't match what's currently going on your social media, and you don't have to put that on your organic posts. These are ads, but they are a way to inspire people to plan ahead. I encourage everyone to map out weeks or months ahead of time. So if we're looking at a much longer campaign for something like you want to increase your visitation during the winter time, you're going to want to try to plan that out now. Think about what images you'll use, write the content for it, maybe different tasting rooms to visit if you're an out-of-state visitor, etc., and start putting that live in September, October, if you're really trying to push that like after holiday time of year. People want to plan for stuff ahead of time. As I mentioned, I had a little fact from US Travel is that excitement for near-term travel and openness to travel has been increasing. Nearly 6 in 10 people surveyed agree that planning a vacation in the next 6 months would bring them happiness. So think about what you can offer an audience out there in the next 6 months. Maybe again, it's multiple campaigns and you can create little multiple sections. I'm also really happy to take any like specific questions that people have about Business Manager. I know the basics. We have a whole team of experts that really does run the campaigns inside, but I think just you take these simple steps and really think about it and make sure that your website's up to date, information's up to date, that you're using quality images, and you're thinking about things ahead of time with ads, you will perform really well. And that's all.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Sachie. Thank you, Eric. That was wonderful information and really relevant for what's happening right now. So I'm really grateful for your time and expertise in this space. So as promised, we're going to enter the Q&A session now. And just remember to put those questions in the chat box. I know some of you have, and we've got some that were submitted earlier. So Katie's going to run through those, and panelists, if you guys just want to tackle, just go ahead and jump in with your expertise on the topic. And I might jump in as well from a regional perspective. So Katie, do you have some questions to begin with?
Yeah, certainly. So the first question, which may be geared more towards Eric and Sachie, is how does your organization strategize and use the different social platforms? And how is time best spent between Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, etc.?
So I can start, Sachie. So the 3 main social media programs that Travel Salem uses currently is Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So our content strategy in dealing with those social media programs is that we usually create one post and we repost it on the other platforms. What we've started to do with Facebook is I feel like it's more of something that we can reshare things on. So if there's like an event that may be happening, you can reshare it and it'll lead to that event group page. So that's kind of what we use Facebook for. But in general, what we do is we create one post and then we have like a trickle down effect. And then it typically has the same content on it. And on Facebook and Twitter, it's a little bit different because you can include links in them. So that's how we differentiate. On Facebook and Twitter, we include links, and then on Instagram, we have a link tree that we direct people to the link in the bio, and they can click on that and it'll have a ton of links for them to go on.
Yeah, echoing that, Facebook is Travel Oregon's priority channel, but as Natasha said, that Facebook and Instagram work together. So when you do ads, you can put them on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook's the priority channel because of the website clicks is a major driver. We want people to explore our website and learn as much as they can, more than that we put in a post. Instagram, we focus more on getting engagement and awareness. But there are, as Erick mentioned, there are website link opportunities too. We also use Twitter for kind of engaging with content creators and developing contacts and building a rapport with influencers and media. And then YouTube, again, is also another great awareness builder. And then Pinterest, we actually found that it has an amazing engagement and website traffic from it, which was kind of surprising because it wasn't on our top radar. So we're trying to put more efforts to that as well right now. But honestly, like, people will pin things from your website, whether or not you've created a beautiful tile for them to pin.
Awesome. The next question I have is, how do you encourage businesses who don't have any social media presence to start or begin to have a social media presence, and why does having social channels matter?
I can touch on this from both an agency and a consumer perspective. As a consumer, especially during these days, I think a lot of what I've been looking at, and Becca touched on this, is updated information. There's nothing more frustrating than going on Google and then seeing that something's open until 10, and then you show up there at 7 to eat dinner, and then they're closed. And I know people are busy and their brains are everywhere, but sometimes it's the simplest information because you want those customers to come through. And as a consumer too, I think a lot of places like Instagram, especially, that beautiful imagery, I think people use beautiful imagery to kind of give an update about what they're doing, how's it going. And it's also a gateway to your website. I feel like a lot of people these days, and we know this as an agency, people aren't actively always going to your website at first. You know, they might look it, but if they're just on their phone, they might try to see if you have an Instagram, hit on it, and then yes, you do have a link in the Instagram bio to go to your website. But a lot of information comes from social media first, and then people come to your website. It's extremely important because it's a way to stay relevant as people are getting more and more into their phones. And that's where they get a lot of their information, is from their cell phone. And if you want to stay relevant.
Yeah, to add on to what Natasha said, I feel like nowadays, especially social media, they're expanding their tools to allow businesses more opportunities to promote themselves and to not only gain a following, but to also sell their product. So if you're a retail business, I know that Instagram has recently rolled out tools where people can shop directly from your Instagram account. So that's just one step. Instead of having someone, click on your website, go through the whole process of ordering something, if you have something to sell that you'd like to advertise on your social media account, you can do that for free and have the shop feature available so that someone can buy it directly from your social media account. So it's just another way, if you have a product to sell, for people to be able to do that.
All right, the next question is kind of more, Sachie, were you gonna add something?
I'm just gonna echo.
Okay.
As a millennial, I am on social media constantly. And I think a lot of people can share that sentiment during COVID. Twitter had 20% increase in usage since last year, and that's Twitter, not even Facebook. And then Facebook, you stay top of mind with people. When you create an event, people get notifications. They're going to see their friends interacting with your content. It's just a good idea.
Awesome. So our next question is more COVID related, and it's, why is it important to show masked imagery? And do I need to note if an image is a pre-COVID image and it doesn't have physical distancing and following the proper guidelines at this time?
Yeah, we recommend face coverings in photos because we want to meet expectations, but we understand that's not always the case. That with our digital asset library, we've had some great photos that we only recently got a hold of this year and that we feel like we want to use. So it's just kind of gauging, like, does that look like it's social distancing in that outdoor space? Or maybe even like, you know, noting in the caption, like photo from 2018. It's just trying to meet consumers where they're at and what they want to know and what they can visualize themselves doing.
Yeah, I would say if you don't have any mass imagery to use, then try to use just open space photos. To reiterate, I think what we've said a lot is that your consumer and your traveler and your user, whether they're coming from in-state or out of state, right now they're looking for information, and they were really looking for information at the height of COVID, and even now as they're traveling, you know, travel trends on Google have been showing that people are like, is it safe to travel? Can I fly? Who requires face masks on airlines? People are looking for that kind of stuff, and face masks and distance photos can still inspire somebody to want to go, because maybe they're so anxious to go, they're a little nervous to travel, but they can feel reassured by the information that they're getting just from an image or from a caption that, okay, this place is awesome, they're following guidelines, and it's still going to be fun. It's still going to be a great time. You know, people have been sitting in their houses forever, so it's just like giving them another sense of security that, like, it's going to be cool, it's going to be okay.
I just wanted to add to that. I think a lot of it is just about expectation setting. I mean, Oregon is requiring masks in all business, all public places, and we're recommending all in outdoor spaces as well. If you encounter a hiker that's on a small path, you're going to want to make sure that you can either, if you can't get that 6 feet, that you have something prepared, or you're already masked as it is. So I think it's expectation setting, and I also wanted to mention that we are working really diligently to get a lot of face covering and social distancing photos for a lot of our stakeholders. We're working really hard to gather those right now. So if you guys have any needs, please do reach out to your local DMO. And if you have any that you can share, that would be really helpful too. I mean, I think we're in a space right now where organic is okay. If you've got your cell phone camera and you take some shots of the streetery or your restaurant or your business, with people's permission, of course, it would be great to have those organic images to use and to pass along, so we're able to set expectations and provide the best service we can. So thanks, guys.
This is probably a question for Natasha. What are best practices for social media ad targeting, and how can we use social media for fundraising?
So social media ad targeting, Facebook has a lot of different targeting options. You can go pretty deep into it. You can use geos, which are pretty standard. I believe it lets you drop and like expand out on where you want to go. You can put different zip codes in there if you're just trying to target some areas. There's also audience data you can collect too. So you can definitely target on people's likes and what they are. Another thing I encourage, if you don't already know, is a pixel. So if you don't know what pixels are, I would definitely get familiar. I won't go into too much detail, but to get a better idea of audience targeting, if you can get a Facebook pixel onto your website so that you can capture when people visit, that pixel can then generate what type of person, personifying them, the type of user that they are, and that can generate back into Facebook. So basically, you can collect audience data based on who visits your website, who clicks on your ads, etc. Very, very good to do that there. I would explore definitely with pixels and with more of audience data rather than just geos. For fundraising, I don't work in a lot of fundraising campaigns, unfortunately. I do know that a lot of organic stuff for fundraising helps, but Facebook may have some parameters with what you can promote as far as raising money. As far as putting ads out there, so I can't touch too hard on that. If anyone else can back me up, if they know.
I can't speak to fundraising, but I would add that we like to hyper target and layer our audience demographics. So we don't want to do it too much. So, you know, like a RV, if we're tring to target RVers in the Willamette Valley, we might target, you know, certain drive markets retirement age and higher, college education, who like wine, but you don't want to add too many likes because then you really dilute the pool, and then you could eliminate quality people from the audience. I would also say, like, maybe with this fundraising example, that you create custom ad sets that like really are with your audience in mind. So that way you can kind of play and determine what's the best use. And with Facebook too, you can have them split test against each other. So the one that's the more successful ad ends up getting all your money.
Yep.
All right, next question is, when can we return to using user-generated content? Is using it now implying a travel, like unwarranted travel?
I think you can use it now.
Yeah, that we've been using UGC, you know, and combining it with in-house produced stuff. But I think the important thing is just to use the right UGC. Like you don't want UGC from, you don't want photos that have, you know, a bunch of people at like a state fair or something, or old content like that. A lot of the newer UGC will show people, you know, adhering to social distancing guidelines, and all of that. So I feel like just picking the right UGC, picking ones that won't cause any trouble, promote social distancing, will be best for your account.
How many hours a week should an organization spend on social media activities?
I mean, I think it really depends. I think if you're a smaller account, definitely put in the time to, you know, increase your following. I would say definitely, you know, a couple hours a week is really all you need to plan out your posts for the upcoming week or the present week. But really staying on top of like a regular posting schedule is the most important thing, in my opinion. It keeps your users engaged. It makes your account relevant. So however long that takes, you can go super in depth with your social media accounts, hire someone like me who spends 40 hours a week on it, but you could also spend, you know, 3 or 4 hours just planning out the week, planning out the content. There's a bunch of free tools out there. We use Later. It's an inexpensive tool to plan out your social media content and have it automatically post for you. So yeah, you know, if you're starting out and you don't have that much resources to put in, a couple of hours a week, maybe 2 hours a week, will get you definitely going.
Yeah, and if you're doing ads on Facebook Manager, once you set them up, I wouldn't say you can put them away and never go look at them again, but you definitely can just check on them daily to see how they're performing. When you do ads on Business Manager, people are then more likely to also go to your page, like your page. You'll see that you'll get new followers on Instagram and Facebook. And so with that, you definitely want to know or want to have them see that you have some organic traffic there. There'd be nothing weirder than seeing a beautiful ad and then going to an Instagram page that has one photo. So take some time to put into it. Eric said a couple hours a week is pretty good. One other fun thing that's not really a big stat, but I think anyone who's a millennial can see is as we're flowing through our Instagram, I think 1 in 4 posts have been reels. Making a reel, I would highly encourage that too. I think that'd be some good relevant posting to do right now. I made my first one yesterday personally, and it took me a second, but it's really easy. Really easy. Take a fun, cute little video on your phone, even if just like your surroundings, and then put some music to it, and it actually will get a lot of traction.
All right. How does the Instagram algorithm work?
Man, who knows? They change it all the time. I mean, from our experience, you know, the content that gets higher reach gets, in relation to that, it gets higher engagement. So we feel as though content that has been shared a lot, it has just done a lot better for us. So making content that promotes like unique lodging experiences. For example, we just shared a photo about a hot springs resort in our area. That has gained a lot of traction because a lot of people are tagging each other. A lot of people are sharing it with their friends and whatnot. But as far as the algorithm goes, that's something like that I'm pretty sure they've kept it under wraps, and people can speculate as to how the algorithm works, but yeah, they change it. I know that Facebook and Instagram, they're pushing more for paid advertisements. So if you're looking back at like your engagement or your reach, it might be lower this time of year versus last year at this time, just because they've really started to push out paid advertisement.
And also to a degree too, the posts you interact with as a consumer are the accounts you're going to see more of. So just if you see a lot of your like high school exes photos popping up, it's because you're looking, and now it's getting served back to you.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, I think Instagram just released Reels. So Facebook released Instagram Reels in direct competition with TikTok. So that's something that's going to be high on their algorithm right now. But to Erick's point, they don't release that. You can speculate. You know, I could post a photo of like an awesome photo at 10 a.m. and it gets nothing. And I could post the same photo the next day at like 6 p.m. and I have like 100 likes out of nowhere. It's very strange. One thing from an ad side that I know that a lot of our experts and our digital marketing specialists see is that imagery when creating an ad that features people definitely does really well. People definitely like and engage more and click through when they see one or two people in an image doing something. It doesn't mean to say that landscape photos don't do well too, but if you can utilize imagery with people in it, that would definitely be something to throw in with your ad set. See how it performs against the others.
What metrics are most important in your reporting?
Depends on what kind of campaign you're doing. Definitely, if you don't have a Google Analytics string on your website, I would highly recommend putting that there so you can kind of see your user engagement from your website. If you're doing a Facebook campaign, you probably care about clicks. That means that people have clicked through to the website and are reading whatever content you have on there. If you do have the analytics thing on your website as well, you can then look in Google Analytics and you can kind of see what your average time on page is, and you can narrow it down to the specific page that they're looking at. So if you want to see how many people have been looking at your events page where you have all these wonderful shows lined up for the next month in your garden, at your winery, that's a good place to kind of go see. But you're definitely looking at clicks for that. If you're running something like a Google display campaign, a lot of that's going to be impressions, and you're going to be worried less about clicks because the whole point is about bringing awareness to the audience and kind of reminding them about you. Impressions are going to be higher. Clicks are going to be much lower on Google display campaigns. But a lot of that too works together side by side with all these other campaigns that you're doing. And if you're doing video, that you want views, of course.
Okay, great. And we got this question in the chat, and it says, I have read you should not use the word COVID. What are good phrases, quotes, etc. that we should be promoting so we stay safe and feel welcoming in Oregon?
Yeah, I saw this one, and Amanda, I thank you for bringing it up. I have not heard of this, and so I'm curious if the rest of the panelists, if you guys have heard it too. Just immediately, my response from a regional perspective is to not ignore COVID and not ignore a pandemic that's happening. We're all in this together, as Sachie said, and we need to make sure that we're being informative, not ignoring factual information and the reality of our situation right now. So, I mean, there may be ways to phrase things around safety around it, but as far as using the term, avoiding the term COVID-19, it doesn't seem responsible to me. But I'm curious about what the rest of the panelists have seen with this.
Yeah, I haven't heard about that either. But yeah, like you said, Becca, I think using it definitely won't hurt. It's not like you know, you're going to spread the virus using the word, but I think just being straightforward, and if you have like a landing page on your website that talks about, you know, COVID-19 resources or things that safety guidelines that you're implementing in regards to COVID, I think it's definitely best to just use the word. But yeah, I've never heard of any negative sentiment from using that.
Yeah, likewise. I did hear something about Google. You can't do ads that have face masks, but you can do face covering. But that's, yeah, like then I can relate to.
From an agency perspective, we have clients all over the U.S., so it's kind of just been on the destination's desire on how much they want to use COVID-19 in their copy. However, the thing to remind yourself is you're not a newspaper. You're not a news source. You're a resource to your consumers, but you don't have to be reporting on all the health stuff and everything going on. So maybe it's less about not using the word COVID and more about like, you don't need to like, you know, be the media, but you can certainly say, hey, due to COVID or due to the current temperature of the earth, like the world right now and how we are reacting, we're taking reservations only. Please reserve here. I mean, these are very simple things. And when you use the word COVID there, I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh, like you're just trying to say, here's the information. This is why we make reservations only right now. No walk-ins. Very simple stuff like that. I haven't heard that people can't or shouldn't be using it, but just a gentle reminder to yourself, don't feel like you aren't keeping up with the times as much because stuff will move fast. You just need to inform the things that matter to your consumers.
Next question is, how many posts a week is best practice for Facebook and Instagram?
So for us previously, we had a higher post count each week. So before COVID, we would usually post, you know, 5 or 6 times a week. But I've actually met with other DMOs, social media managers, and it turns out from their experience, they've been getting better results with less frequency during COVID. For some reason, I'm not sure why. So we've started implementing a strategy of about 3 or 4 times a week for us. And I feel as though that's enough to, you know, stay relevant with your followers, stay relevant with your community, but also get out necessary information and advertise anything that you may have coming up.
Yeah, actually, we're kind of doing the similar numbers right now too, 3 to 4 a week. And where we used to focus on Facebook as website clicks, we now do like a scenic photo once a week, since we're focusing more on engagement. And quite frankly, we don't have as much content to push out with these strange times.
Great. Well, Katie, do you have any more questions that we should put out today?
No, I think that's kind of wraps up. That was a nice kind of round of different types of questions.
Yeah, thank you all for your submissions of questions. I did want to bring up one thing that was brought up in earlier questions, or we'll touch on with the tip sheet. But a couple of us talked about imagery in our presentations, and I think that is super important right now to make set those expectations, like I mentioned before, but also to make sure that if we are using imagery that is pre-COVID, that we're putting that kind of that descriptor in there in the context, because we want to make sure we are putting those expectations forth. So if we are using those great imageries, like Sachie said, that they captured a bunch of stuff they want to use, we are recommending that people do put a little caveat of this image was taken before pre-COVID, the masking and the face covering guidelines of the state. So I would recommend that to all of the businesses that are here today. And I don't know if any of the panel has any other question or any other responses to that, but we wanted to make sure that WAVA at least was putting that out there, that that's what we're going to plan on doing with imagery moving forward, at least in the interim of this pandemic. And I think it also just provides a little bit more context about what's going on. So the more context, the more information, the more things that we can include on our social media channels, the better. And then again, if we are able to provide more context on our website or landing pages, even better. So if any of you guys have anything about imagery, we'd love to hear it. Nope. Nope.
No question.
Sorry. Along with our posts, like obviously we've been posting images of socially distant events, people masking up, but you might want to think about also including like an editor's note, which we've done to all of our posts. So you can create your posts, and then at the end of each post, what we do is we reiterate what phase we're in. So for Marion County, we're in phase 2. And then we talk about a little spiel about COVID, the steps that we're taking to promote the safety of our community. And so that might be something that you can do for your business or for your social accounts. You don't have to have, a full paragraph like we do, but you might be able to, direct people to a landing page where you have COVID guidelines set on your website, or what you're doing to take steps in keeping your guests and customers safe. So that's what we do. That might be something that you guys can implement as well.
Yeah, Erick, Travel Salem, and you do a great job of providing, the phasing, what you should expect. I mean, if you guys haven't seen Travel Salem's posts, you should please go there now and take a look at how they're summarizing things really eloquently and giving the most information in that very, very short paragraph on social. So well done. We've all kind of looked at that and said, wow, you're doing such a great job. So kudos. Amanda had one more question. Future campaigns does WAVA have future campaigns that we're thinking to roll out where we can start planning for, I think she meant imagery. If Travel Oregon, Travel Salem okay with us. So we are planning for photo shoots. I don't know if that answers your question, but we did a photo shoot last week and we have one planned for the end of September where we're getting a lot of diversity imagery and COVID friendly travel imagery. So we're trying to get our archives all stocked up, as well as things that we need in general for our regular tourism assets that we need to compile. So those are always available to our DMOs and our partners and our stakeholders if need be. You can just reach to me at becca@oregon@winecountry.org for any needs. And there's one more question from Amanda. Is Travel Oregon, Travel Salem okay with us reposting your posts?
I mean, for Travel Salem, typically it's fine, but if you want to shoot me an email, Amanda, or if anyone wants to shoot me an email with any questions or anything, I'll put that into the group chat and we can go from there.
I have sent Erick emails. Needs to respond. Yeah, feel free to share our posts as much as you want. I would be a little hesitant on trying to take images, like our image posts that we credit to UGC, and reposting those because we specifically sought out permission from them. So if it's a photographer, they might come and say, hey, I didn't give you permission to repost that. So just something to keep in mind.
Always good to keep in mind. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been a great session. I learned a lot. I hope you guys all did too. And we're putting emails there, so please feel free to contact us if you have any further questions. But do expect the webinar recording to come out in the next couple of days, as well as kind of that cheat sheet of tips that we'll summarize from today's webinar, hopefully to get your business or entity going on some of these tips on your channels. So thanks so much to Sachie, Erick, and Natasha for being here and offering your time and wonderful tips. And we'll hope to see you guys soon. So thanks again. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.